So the reality that we're all dealing with today is that most people, and this is Forrester went out and took a look at 18,000 B2B buyers, and 94% of them went out and used AI first to search for vendors and other things, right? So if you're not in AI or you're not being seen by AI for the things that you want to be seen for, the challenge that all of us have today is that all of our customers are out there using this tool to try and figure out where do they go to be able to buy from. Also on the Apollo side, so Apollo is like a directory of businesses and business numbers and things like that. They've seen that most people that used to pick more than 3 vendors are now to like 2.5 on their short list as well, in terms of trying to decide who do they go and buy from. And then 6 Sense, essentially has found that 95% of the deals go to a vendor that's already on somebody's short list before you even get the very first call. So, it's hard to be on top, but you've also got to be on the top of this AI, thing as well, right? To really, surface to the top. So when I set out to build this session, the way I sort of looked at it was, first of all, you need like a visibility checkup. So where are you in terms of ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity, and where exactly aren't you showing up and what can you do about it, right? So that was kind of the initial place that I started. The profile auditor, this was again in that first session. So the idea was provide you 22 checks that really, help you edit your LinkedIn profile so that people find you for the things that you want to be found for. The voice capture was what we talked about a minute ago, where if you're recording yourself, if you have blog posts, if you even can put emails in there, you could put emails in and use those as the foundation for the voice skill as well, to just really set that initial foundation of what are the things that you say, what are the phrases that you use, how do you typically speak, so that we could use that then in writing as well. And then the ideal client profile definer was this idea of, look, if we can really hone that idea of who you're targeting when we're writing content, now all of a sudden we could shape the content to that ICP with your voice, et cetera. So that was kind of the initial session that we had. And then now the AI source map strictly focuses in on ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity, and what does it say about you? And then what is that manifesto, right? So the way I sort of phrase this is, what are the things that you want to be known for? Let's put it that way. What are the things that you're against? Because typically like a manifesto would have this thing of like, what am I against? And then on the far side, it's what can you and only you say, right? So I've talked a lot with several of you, and I know your careers and all of that kind of stuff. So if you bundled some of that together in your posts, like at different times, if AI could reach up and grab those elements and then put that back into a post or a blog post or whatever, again, I think it's another dimension that people are going to start to see that it's really hard to decipher whether this is AI or not, right? Then the proof shelf will cover as well. I will show you the output of the proof shelf, but if you could imagine, like maybe you start with not a lot of proof on the shelf, on the bookshelf, but when we send in our voice recorders, or we have people email us, or maybe somebody's just as direct and they provide you a direct testimonial, how do you collect those things in a regular basis so that you're not having to, let's just say, go chase them down and then provide them in a one-off bespoke kind of fashion, right? In this case, you could set this up as a, let's say, weekly skill or monthly skill that runs inside of Claude. It just goes out to your inbox or it goes out to your AI note taker and grabs this automatically, and then provides you back a document that says, hey, you should go get this element from your discussion with so-and-so. And now all of a sudden you've got a proof shelf where it's got lots of books on the shelf and lots of proof for different types of customers that might be coming for you, okay? And then lastly, this is a republish of the content engine. So the reason why I'm republishing it in this case is because the content engine skill now, that 30-day content engine that we had from the first workshop now gets upgraded, and it's going to upgrade to include your manifesto. So that's kind of the idea around that. The one that I will live demo with you will be the AI source map, okay? So that you can kind of see, that one, and I will walk through how this particular one works. All of these other ones range from, let's say, like 20 to 30 minutes to run. So I won't live demo them, but I will, at least walk you through those. So I wanted to do a little bit of a, my view of how this fits together as a system, okay? Because I think frameworks are important whenever you start to talk about, how these pieces all fit together. But the way I think about it is like the visibility checkup and the AI source map kind of fit under this diagnosis kind of area. Look, I'm trying to figure out exactly where I fall, what I can improve, how my business can show up more, all that kind of stuff. Then you've got like the build part of it, which is more or less like the authority engine or your manifesto. And then also your voice capture and your ICP definer. And then on the publishing side, really what I see people using going forward is really that content engine 30-day, skill, but also the proof shelf. And, my thought on the proof shelf, honestly, is that you could put those elements, once you sort of write them out, or you figure out how you're going to capture whatever testimonial, because maybe somebody said something live and you've already got it in a, let's say, like a recording like this one. Once you have that recording, you could just go back to that person and say, hey, look, can I use that as an actual testimonial on my website? Can I use it, in other places? So that's kind of the, the thought around this thing, is that trying to make it easy for everybody to gather the things that I think were hard, before, in terms of collecting testimonials, not an easy thing to do. And then lastly, like, what is your rhythm around this? So we'll talk about how to set these things up as reoccurring tasks and stuff like that as well. So as I get to the live demo, I wanted to sort of show you what this looks like from my perspective, right? So I went out, looks like on last Friday, and sort of, asked ChatGPT, what is an operations-led marketing system for founder-led B2B companies, and who offers one? And so it starts off with like, what is it? What is a founder-led B2B marketing system? What is that? And, who talks about it? And so it mentions Salesforce right here. Right below it, this is my company, right? So this is D3 Digital. So we fell right below Salesforce and let them have the definition. I would rather have the full write-up of our process and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's great that's there, but also for one of our clients, so this is SimMed, they have an oral board ABPS prep system, right? So I wanted to know, just more generically, what are they known for? Now, if you do this with your company, the chances are you probably, could be found. You could be found this way. But the follow-up, I think, is even more important to this question, which is, at a fundamental level, what are the things that we can do to get them listed for ABPS or board prep, right? So these are the things that oftentimes for our clients, like, we're trying to figure out, like, how do we reverse engineer whatever answers that the ChatGPT or Claude or whatever are going to provide to us? And this is, kind of that at that fundamental level. This is, how we go back and ask it to tell us what's the answer here and what do I need to do to better position this particular client. So for any of you that might be taking screenshots or, spending time taking notes and all that kind of stuff, I have this companion workbook. It kind of takes you through step by step of everything that we're going to cover today. So, feel free to have this as well. And then also you have this companion guide as well for your skills, right? So the skills guide walks you through each and every time, what the skill is and what it's supposed to do and all that kind of stuff, right? And then it gives that framework that I just showed a little bit ago of that, really having a strong sort of platform to have these things work from as well. All right. So I've opened up the Claude desktop app. That's what I have open here. And we are going to step through how to load a skill first. And then from there, I will use the authority map skill to just as my initial demos to walk through. So the way to load a skill, you click on customize on the left. There's a menu that comes up on the left. And then you go to skills. And then in here, we're going to click on add. And then you're going to upload a skill. Okay. So that's essentially the start of it. The next part, you're going to have those files downloaded, like that group of zip files that I had. All of those have got to be downloaded. The thing that I'll tell you is don't unzip the file. So just leave it as a .zip file. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just grab that file off of your computer and drag it into the folder that's right here for upload the skill. And then I'm just going to release that there. Because I already have the skill, it's saying, hey, look, do you want to upload and replace this skill? And I'll just say yes. So once you have that skill loaded, right? I mean, more or less, going to step through now using that skill. We want to be able to, have it use the skill so that it builds the next step. So this is the authority engine one, is the one that I'm going to walk through. I normally dictate in, so just going to do that. I'd like to use this authority engine skill, and I want to have you step me through how to properly apply this. So this way you don't even have to worry about what's in there. It will step you through each part of it. And normally it'll tell you things like, hey, I need your voice. I need your ICP. So, I mean, because I've run this skill before, and it's rerunning that manifesto, and it's saying, hey, I think you've got a few things that you could clarify as well, right? I mean, this hasn't been that long. So there's opportunities for me to make sure that I've got places to clarify things and make sure that I've got stuff up to date. I mean, every time that you see a disconnect between what the AI is providing you and, if it's not correct, I would just keep correcting it. And as many of you know, through using AI, it eventually starts to understand that, hey, these are things that we should pay attention to, and there are other things that we shouldn't. So the authority engine really is this idea of, how do I have the following elements, right? So the operator's manifesto, or the idea of that authority engine, is, who do you help? What is it that you reject? And what is it that only you can say, right? It's to really be able to provide that point of view that you have, and more or less, to outline that change that you're here to make, right? So that's kind of what that skill is trying to do. And that's what the output of it is. And the whole idea for that skill for you would be, save the skill, the output of the skill. Let me sort of put it that way. The output file that comes with that, then save that for yourself, okay? And then that way, it could be your manifesto that's loaded in Claude that you reuse, whenever you're going to write content. The way you would then reuse it is, put in that you want to load your ICP, put in that you want to load your voice, and put in that you want to load your brand identity. And then that way, it truly has your structure for what a post could be. And so if I come back to the screen share one more time, the way I would do this is I would put in / and then manifesto. So this is actually my manifesto, okay? And then I would press shift and then enter, and then I could put in my ICP. So it doesn't have that as my brand loaded in this version. So I'll just use that for now. I could individually load my ICP. I have it in text expander, but it's just not loaded here as a skill inside of here. And then now that I've done that, I could say, add my voice. I think there is a voice in here from the last time. Yeah, so I just told it to write a post in my voice using my voice in my manifesto. So it's loading that skill now, and then, going to output at least a post as well, right? To just show us, what would it potentially look like, as it comes out here. What's up on the screen right now is I asked it to use my manifesto and then help me create a post, okay? So that's what this is. This is a social media post for, let's say, LinkedIn or whatever the case might be. But you could kind of see a well-structured post, one that definitely is using my ICP and also pulling things out of my career. This whole 18 years at General Electric is, where I more or less came out of before I started consulting on my own and working with smaller companies and things like that. So anyway, so that is real. And then it mentioned some things down here that there's other ways that I could possibly use this as well. And it could, draft other posts. So with that, let's talk about some of the other skills, because these are ones that I can't actually demo for you because they take a little longer to actually generate, right? So these kind of come back up to the top, right? So if you use the AI source map skill, I loaded my brand and then I loaded my ICP. And then I just said, what I want you to do is to use the AI source map skill and build an AI source map for D3 digital media. And then from that, then it came back and, started running. After it ran, it's checking ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity. So it's checking those 3 areas. And then it's providing you this source map back. So, it kind of repeats some of the stuff with regards to the ICP and the scope and things like that. So it's got that up here at the top. And then it's got areas that I can be found already. So I have a podcast called Life Science Success. I could be found there. It talks about my LinkedIn profile as something that it found. And then down here, it gives me like a target list of what should I worry about. And this one on Crunchbase is legitimate. I think this could be one area that I could go focus on. So this kind of talks to like, what are the things that come out of this and what would you go do about it, Don? Well, I mean, for me, I would prioritize this list. I wouldn't treat this as I've got to go fix everything right now. It's just not my typical approach to all this stuff. AI provides us a lot of inputs, I feel like. And at times I'm like, look, I'm going to go do the critical things, and the less critical things I'm going to not worry about right off the top of the bat, right? But Crunchbase could be a legitimate one. And oftentimes I see our employee count is wrong all over the place. So whether it's on LinkedIn or other places, I see our employee count wrong. So that is, one thing that might actually reflect better for bigger companies that I could correct as well. And so you kind of, sort of scroll through here and you're like, okay, well, what do I need to go fix? I would kind of come back down to this Crunchbase one, but, I would probably pick off this one thing that I would go do and then, go update that. Also, they give you this little letter down here for like, hey, if you want to like write your customers so that you have customer testimonials on Clutch and in your Google business profile, this is a suggestion for a potential testimonial letter. And then it's got other elements down at the very bottom for ways that you can get other updates done, let's say for your website and other things, right? So there are opportunities to extract, more information and make it easier for AI to grab and process and things like that. So my idea for this one is, you'll see it right here. So on the left-hand side under scheduled, after it finished, what I came down here and said next was, what I want you to do next is I want you to help me create a reoccurring task scheduled inside of Claude Cowork so that it uses the current documents and it compares those to the next time that it runs, right? So I want it to take the document that you see right now on the right, I'll go make some changes. And then next month, I want it to run again, right? So from that, it automatically, I didn't really do anything else other than click run in this. So what I did was it came up with the source map. It's got it already loaded on the right-hand side, like a visibility tracker. And then I just clicked run in here, and then it comes up with all these, additional documents where it's actually compared, the original to now and so on. So there really wasn't a new, I hadn't made any changes. So there really isn't a reason why it would see any changes, but I want you to know that this is an easy way to set up like a monthly reoccurring task that checks your LinkedIn profile. It checks your, whether you're listed on Google My Business or Clutch or, any Crunchbase or any of these other places, right? So then that way, the more findable that you are in these different places, you could be found for the things that you're wanting to be listed for. All right, let me talk a little bit about the testimonials. Okay, so the testimonials, this is the proof shelf skill, right? So essentially, I just came in and said, I want you to run the proof shelf skill. And what I want you to do is look at my inbox for potential opportunities where I may have not taken advantage of the clients or partners who said something positive in a message that we could use for a testimonial. Once you have this, what you have to do is like run it on a regular basis, okay? So, and then you have to put a wrapper around it. I'm purposely not scrolling on the right-hand side because I just don't want to go through all of the other client information and things that could be shown. But the whole idea here is, after this skill runs, if you have recorded meetings in Zoom or you have recorded meetings inside of, I use Fireflies as an AI note taker. In Notion would be another one. And I demonstrate all of those sort of things or talk about all of those as well in the video for loading the skill. But the whole idea would be like wherever you have virtual areas of proof, you want this skill again to run. Okay. So the whole idea around this is like, how do I collect all of those moments when clients have said something positive that, that I could potentially leverage as a testimonial. So that's normally how I would approach it. It would be with permission. So in the very bottom section of this chat that I have here, what I wanted it to do in the end was I'd like this skill to run on a weekly basis against my inbox and my Fireflies note taker so they could provide a document each time that it runs. And that way I can collect each one of these. I can then go back through those and go, okay, so can I use any of these? Should I reach out to any of these people and try and get their approval to be able to use the elements that are again coming out? But again, the more sources that you have, the better. Okay, this is one of my most exciting skills ever. If any of you ran the 30-day content calendar before, this one in my mind actually is one step above. And the reason why is because it has your ICP, it has your voice, it has your manifesto, and all those things combined are what result in the content that gets created. The issue for me, honestly, was I thought, well, when it ran, I thought, well, I'm just going to go get a coffee and then come back and, see, how it did. Well, it continued to run for almost 30 minutes. So it runs for a long time when it runs. That's one reason why I'm not, doing these live, as we go through here, because essentially I would run out of time and you wouldn't be able to really see anything. So hopefully, you understand. But at the same time, the idea was, do that. And then, I just said, I want you to place all the documents into a specific folder as well. And that folder was just the collection that I was using for this particular run of the skill as well. So what now it comes up with is it's got a bunch of drafted posts, right? So if I click on the very first document at the top, it's got, the different drafted posts. It's got the dates that they're going to go into my planner. And I'll go through because how do I schedule my posts? So I should just show you that as a part of this as well, so you can kind of see, how I do it. There's another program as well if you want to, go do that as well. But essentially, you could see this is post number 1, August 1st. It says it's at the top of the funnel. And then all I would do if I was going to copy this post, I would just copy this text out and then go put it inside of my content scheduling software and then schedule it out. We talked about this in my coffee hour session this morning, or my mastermind this morning, was would I include a picture? I absolutely would include a picture with each one. That's just me, because I think that visual variety gets people to stop their scrolling for a second. Even if all you do is copy this entire text and paste it into ChatGPT, or we talked about Gemini, paste it in there and just say, I need an image for this post. It'll generate an image. It may not be the one that you want, but again, it'll give you something to kind of go from to start, right? Because we typically don't talk about, image generation on here. But again, I would look for something that's aligned to whatever the post is going to be. Maybe it has some words on it, so that it calls it out to people hey, look, this is what this particular post is about. If you like a little fancier view of that same thing, this is what it was on whenever I originally opened this. So this more or less had top of funnel, middle funnel, and bottom of funnel, how many posts are setting in each one of those categories for you. So that's kind of what that is showing. And then again, all the posts they're outlined right here. So post number 1, I just would copy and paste this into my content scheduler and go do that. The other 2 things that I'm really excited about, one is at the top of every post, you have what's known as a hook. It's the thing that gets people to stop scrolling for a second, right? And so for me, it'd be stop posting daily, start posting on a rhythm that you could actually keep. Stop trying to sound like a thought leader, document what you already know instead. And then it gives me some contrarian versions, some ways to open with the story, some form of a statistic or number, a question that you might ask, a listicle that you could have. So, there's a whole series. For any of you that are having trouble, what do I come up with? And I get this question oftentimes, how do you come up with ideas? Well, this is a good idea generator. Then on the back end, these are all of the ways to get people to use a call to action to go do a thing that I want them to do. Okay, so a call to action is really that way to get them to your website or get them to look at your free GPT or go get your lead magnet or, what have you. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful to you as well.
Hey, if you're liking this content, please do me a favor and click that like button for me. Also, please consider subscribing to the channel. And lastly, below this video, you will find a link to my free Skool Community where I place all of the assets for all of the videos that I create. So please do those 3 things for me. Click like, click subscribe and make sure that you join us in the free Skool community, because I have lots of resources over there that I frequently do not post on YouTube. So please do me a favor and join us in Skool, and we will make sure that you get all of the assets plus all of the bonuses that I add to every single video, PDFs, GPTs, all of those sorts of things. Thanks a lot.